Hey everyone, we are back with a match preview, and this time we have a popcorn fourth round match preview. Yannick Sinner from Italy takes on Stefanos Tsitsipas. What a crazy week it's been at this year's Australian Open. We've had some incredible matches, and Rafa Nadal, the defending champion, is out, and so is last year's finalist Daniil Medvedev. Both of them were in the top half of the draw, which means that section of the draw is really open, and a lot of players fancy their chances now to really get to the final and have a crack at potentially winning their first slam, and you just never know. There's some really tough contenders out there. And the other half, we know Novak Djokovic is still alive. He remains the heavy favorite as long as he's there in the draw. But we all know his hamstring has been acting up and his movement is a little bit compromised, apparently, from his matches so far. And who knows, that side might open up as well. So great opportunities for a lot of players to make a mark here. So Tsitsipas and Sinner. It's a great match and it has a potential to be a great match with quality ball striking. So let's first take a look at how these two gentlemen have stacked up in their past head-to-head matches. So Tsitsipas is 4-1 against Sinner. He's won their last three matches and he hasn't lost a set in his last three matches. And their only match in the Grand Slam, which is obviously their most notable match for a number of reasons, was last year 2022 Australian Open quarterfinal, and Tsitsipas pulverized Sinner. It won't be an understatement to say he absolutely pulverized him in that match. Sinner had no chance in that match, and that's been their only hard court match. So Tsitsipas dominated Sinner in that match. The rest of their matches have been on clay. And I'll definitely talk more about this match they had last year. Let's talk a bit about how really their form coming into this tournament is. And then we can really talk about how their games stack up against each other, and we can refer to that match as well along the way. Form wise, Tsitsipas really comes in with really good form. He put up some great performances at the United Cup, and he's bringing some serious momentum with him. He finished the year playing good tennis, and he's back. And his journey so far, I think he's looked pretty good. He has looked pretty good. He won his last match in straight sets. And looking at the tournament, uh, things that really stand out for Stefanos are he's won 81% of his points on the first serves, which is a pretty impressive number. Sinner does not even feature in the top 20 here in this department. So Tsitsipas clearly has the numbers going for him behind his serve, and unsurprisingly, Tsitsipas has a good second serve, and he's won 60% of his second serve points as well. And again, Sinner does not feature in the top 20 here. Um, Goes without saying, Tsitsipas has been posting some great numbers behind serve. It is true he hasn't come up against really tough players with great returns so far, but I think form wise he comes in with in a really good place, and he's done really well at the Australian Open as well. He reached the semifinals last year, semifinals in 2021, and he's lost to Medvedev in both of those occasions. And good news for him is he no longer has to face Medvedev if he advances further down to the semifinals and later on. So his last four appearances, he's made semifinals on three occasions, and that's pretty good. He's been knocking on the door, and really, I'm pretty sure with the belief he has in his game, he now sees this as a real opportunity. Sinner, on the other hand, his Australian Open journey, he's obviously much younger, and his best showing was last year quarterfinal, and that did not turn out to be great because Tsitsipas really blew him off the court that day. And his other two appearances have been a first round in 2021 and a second round in 2020. So Sinner really is looking to capitalize on the great run he had last year, ranked number 16. A lot of players say that does not do justice to his ranking. And I would agree with that. He's a great ball striker, really dangerous, and we all know he almost took Novak Djokovic out in last year's Wimbledon. And not many players can bring out that brand of tennis that he did against Djokovic and overpower him in a match like that. So Sinner is really dangerous, and there's no denying. Everyone really acknowledges how great a ball striker he is, and he's gotten stronger physically. He took Alcaraz out a number of times last year, and he really is making huge strides. Looking at how their matchup really is, Tsitsipas. First of all, quickly, let's talk about Tsitsipas. His forehand, one of my favorite forehands, and I think his forehand is the one that is kind of replacing Federer's. I'm not saying it's as good as Federer's forehand, but it really has all the makings that Federer's forehand had, right? He can really step in, take the ball on the rise. He can change direction really well. He can generate a lot of spin when he needs it. He has a great forehand on the run. I would say his movement to his forehand side is one of the most explosive out there, probably the most explosive in the current crop of players. And he can really explode into the ball and hit great shots on the run and absorb, redirect pace, and create of his own. And you give him short balls, he can go inside out, he can go inside in, he can punish slices and have great approach shots to really come to the net, and he's pretty good at the net as well. And Tsitsipas, I think his forehand is one of the most lethal shots in men's tennis, without a doubt. Backhand, different prospect, high net clearance. The guy gives himself a lot of margin when he strikes the ball, and he can take high balls fairly well, which obviously he's matches against Rafa, and he's done a pretty good job of handling high balls on the backhand side. His weaknesses really are you stretch him wide on the backhand side. He obviously has to take one hand off, come up with a slice, and his slice is pretty bad. It's definitely has evolved and improved over the years, but it surprises me sometimes having being a one having a one-handed backhand and being so skillful at the net, but somehow not having the feel for that one-handed slice. It surprises me a bit, but he does have a decent drop shot, which surprises me even more. But his backhand slice is a liability, and people exploit that very clearly in patterns. But what really makes him really difficult is obviously he has a pretty good serve, right? He has a pretty good serve. He has a great forehand, and when he's able to set balls up for his forehand, I think his 1-2 is one of the best out there. And the guy, because the great mover he is, he's able to give himself a lot of chances on the returns as well. I would say apart from the backhand, his return of serve can be a liability, especially on the backhand side. He's learning the art of really shortening his swings on the backhand side, and you might have seen some videos of Tsitsipas where he absolutely shanks the ball on his backhand returns, and he's flying in the air, some slow motion shots. But that's because he struggles sometimes to really time the ball on his backhand side and hit those bunt backhand blocks back, which Federer was, by the way, amazing at doing. So he's, I think, evolving in those, and he's working with really smart coaches around the world as well. So he'll probably get there, but it remains a liability at this point, potentially for good players to exploit. Sinner, whoa, one of the cleanest ball strikers out there when in the zone. His backhand, I think, is one of the best. There was actually a study done by and posted on the ATP website as well some time ago. Between 2018 and 20, they really looked at the spin as well as the pace on average players generate on their backhand. And Sinner, these two categories combined, was at the top. His backhand was the heaviest. He could generate the most spin, more than Rafa, as an example. Rafa obviously doesn't have the spiniest of backhands on average, but he can generate a lot of spin. But yeah, Sinner really has is a really heavy backhand. And in terms of pace, he was clocking it around 70 mile per hour on average. And not many players could do that. I think Rafa was around that mark. Novas were obviously below. Roger was below. And he won the next gen final in that period as well. And that's the period when player really saw the firepower he could bring. He was striking that backhand around that 75 mile per hour. So, I mean, his backhand is amazing. Technically, a really sound shot. The way he sets up and the way he and his swing pattern is really compact. I think his backhand is great. His forehand, yeah, that's the shot that tends to break down more. His swing, his elbow tends to hit when he's preparing. His elbow is obviously a bit higher, but he's tried to shorten that, and that's what players like Dominic Thiem have done really well over the years. But I think he's really much work in progress in terms of evolving his forehand. But it's a really dangerous shot because he has a lot of firepower. So you don't want to give him the time he needs on this shot, and he's really dangerous then. He's a good server, but not quite the huge blast out server you would expect for somewhere of his physique and stature. What did Tsitsipas really do, keeping all these things in mind about their strengths and weaknesses in that match? If you look at the Australian Open 2022 match, Tsitsipas really, he came out and he was determined to just control the match with his forehand, without a doubt. The guy just uses forehand to absolutely control the match. He was moving Sinner from side to side, taking his balls early, and he was just seeing the ball really big that day. There were moments when Sinner would just pull him off the court on the forehand side, and Tsitsipas would just explode his way to the forehand corner and just come up with a ridiculous cross-court forehand, and he could pass him really well. So I think really Sinner really struggled. He felt rushed and he couldn't really do much against Tsitsipas' forehand that day. Lesson number one for Sinner, if he is to make the patterns more in his favor, pepper Tsitsipas' backhand and wait for your opportunity. Don't let Tsitsipas control the match by hitting forehands from his backhand corner. And we know players with great forehands are the most dangerous when they're given time in their backhand corners. Rafa, Roger, even Novak does really well from that corner. Tsitsipas really, if he's camping in his backhand corner using his forehand, he's really dangerous. And if you look at Sinner's last match against Martin Fusowicz. Apologies if I got the pronunciation wrong here. He won 71% of his first serves. By the way, just got 59% first serves in. This is not going to cut it against Tsitsipas. And he won just 45% of second serves. You compare that to Tsitsipas in his last match. He's obviously was in a much more comfortable position, and he won 81% of first serves, 67% of second serves. Obviously, his opponent might not have been as tricky, but the guy is pretty comfortable behind his serve so far. Sinner is going to come up more against this. He obviously doesn't have the biggest of second serve, and Tsitsipas is really going to run around his backhand to hit forehands. And that was a recurring theme in that match. Tsitsipas kept running around his backhand to hit good returns of the forehand. So Sinner really needs to see the placement of his second serve today and prevent Stefanos from doing that. I think if he is able to just prevent him from controlling the match with his forehand as much as he did last year, he could really sink his teeth into the match and really make this a good contest. Going back to the last year's match, very interestingly, the longer the rally went, the more it favored Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas dominated in all facets in terms of rally length. He won 53% of points under 3 shots, and he won, let me pull this out for you. He won 54% of shots between 4 to 6, 7 to 9 shots. He won 60%. And unsurprisingly, the shots that went beyond 10 shots, he won 67% of them. So really, there was no safe place for Sinner there. But the shorter the points, the more his chances were. And I think that's what he should be trying to do. Tsitsipas is the better mover, and really keeping the points short tends to favor Sinner more. And I think he'll be trying to do that more today as well. So yeah, I think this could be a heck of a match if Sinner brings out tactically the right um, plays tactically the right match here, stays strong mentally, doesn't have those phases where he becomes inconsistent. And if he can really prevent Tsitsipas from dictating from that forehand side, I think he could really give us a great match here. I think Tsitsipas is the big favorite here. I have no doubt he's in great form, and he's been knocking on the door as far as winning a Grand Slam is concerned. He thinks, I would like to think he believes he has a great chance here, and he's not going to slip that away. I have Tsitsipas winning this match in 4 entertaining sets and really make his way to the quarterfinals. Do let us know what you think in the comment section. What are your predictions, and what are the key patterns at play here that both players need to be on the lookout for? Let's hope we get a cracker of a night session and enjoy the tennis. Goodbye, it is then until the next time.